For this project, I'm going to show you how to make an angled bowl. This is a lovely embellishment if you wanted to create a bit more feminine of a look, or perhaps you wanted to go a bit more retro with your bag. Now, as well as the pattern pieces, which I've already cut out here, I'm just going to show you that. I have two pieces of my bow, and this is already attached to the fusible fleece. Now, if you wanted a more floppier look, then of course I would suggest that you skip the part where you had the fusible fleece. This is the centerpiece of my bowl. I'm using a very suede-like fabric, and I've already pinned that right side together. Now, additionally, you're going to need some studs. I have some round-headed studs here in antique gold. Now, there they are. Let me just take that out and show you. There we go. Now, the next thing you're going to need is a threaded needle. I've threaded this needle already, and the thread is pretty much a close match to my fabric. So, let's get started. The first part of your project would be to take your centerpiece, lay it right side together by just folding it in the middle. You want to pin across, like so. And you'd like to stitch 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way to the top. Now, after doing that, what you want to do is to turn it inside out. So you want to get the right side out. Now, after doing that, then you want to move on to your bow, pin together, right side together, matching all the edges. What you want to do is from the top of your bow, which is this side, you want to mark a line at the top from the center point that's about 3 inches wide. This is a point that you don't want to sew over. You're going to leave this part open for turning. What you want to do is sew from this point, back tacking here, all the way down here on your machine. Raise your foot up, pivot, sew downwards, raise your foot, pivot, sew down, sew across, raise your foot, pivot, sew upwards, raise your foot, pivot, sew all the way here, back tack, and then you can stop. I'm going to do that and come back. I've sewed together the centerpiece of the bow, and I've turned it out right side out. I suggest at this point you could either use a safety pin to turn it, or you could use a loop turner to do so. Alternatively, you could sew it halfway and then turn it and then hold it together and sew it, give it a top stitch across. It's all completely up to you how you wish to do that. Now, what you want to do with the next step of this is to turn it like so, pushing one rough edge into the inside of the other. Get it firmly in there. Just flatten it out. Okay. And take your thread and needle and just basically do a stitch to hold that together. I'm going to do that off camera and come back. Now, I've also taken the time after stitching together my bow piece to notch my seams as well and also tidy the bow. Now what I'm going to do is turn this the right way out, or right side out. Now that I have my bow the right side out, I'm going to basically iron out the seams to keep it flat. And after doing that, I'm going to add my studs all the way around at the point that I want them to be. And then when I've completed adding my stud, I'm going to do a top stitch an eighth of an inch all the way around to close my opening, and then come back. For the center of the bow, I've added one of the rough edge. I've inserted For the center of the bowl, I've inserted one of the rough edges into the other one. I then unstitched it together, but for good measure, I actually machined it together on this side. Now the work is done on the wrong side. However, I've turned it round to show the pretty side of it. So that's how you want to leave the center of your bow. Now this is my bow. I've added my 3 studs, just centered really. When adding the studs, be careful to try to get it away from the edges of your bow, because what you don't want to do is have them right on the edges and find it difficult to maneuver your machine when you're trying to do the top stitch. So just bear that in mind. Now the next step, of course, would be to create the crease of your bow. Now in order to do this, what you want to do is turn it on itself halfway to find your center point. Take your needle and thread. I just need to knot mine. Just going to knot that right here. Okay. Now what you want to do is get in right on the edge here. Push your thread through, your needle through, like so. And you want to then just pull that right out. Just get okay. Then what you want to do is just come back in again on that to knot that, to just get a tighter knot on that. Okay, very comfortable. That's firmly in place. Now what I want to do is essentially do a running stitch all the way, probably every half an inch or quarter of an inch, whatever takes your fancy, all the way to the top. I'm going to do that and come back. Okay, now I've done a running stitch all the way to the top, getting my last stitch right at the top of the bow. Now I hope that's completely centered. Now what I'm going to do is basically try to create the folds of my bow by pulling gently on this. As you can see, you're just getting a little crease right in the middle. Now I'm just going to clean that out just to make sure that it's on the pretty side. It's the front side of my bow. I'm just going to clean that out properly. And here we go. Now I think I'm pretty happy with that crunch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap that around like so. Just get that completely fixed in place. And at the back, I'm just going to stick that through. Just to get my, it's completely tied. Okay. Now, there are 2 ways you can finish this off by hand, or you could do this on the machine. What I prefer to use my machine. By hand, what you want to do, of course, is continue to sew and just basically fix that gather in place. Then you want to slip it through. But I'm going to go to my machine, holding it like so, and I'm going to just fix that in place on my machine and come back. This is my bow completely tidied. The next step would be to add the centerpiece for the bow. But before doing this, what I want to do is to add some studs right on the centerpiece. I'm going to ensure that my seam is just halfway on my bow, because I would like to put it in like so. So I'm going to add 3 studs right here. I'm going to do that and come back. Now I have my completely studded centerpiece and I have my completely studded bow. Now what I'm going to do is essentially push the bow right through this opening and get the centerpiece right here. Just going to do that right now. I want to be very gentle, although I tend to be fairly aggressive with my work. Just going to get that to the center, and there you go. That's your angled bow complete. Now, of course, if you want to go further than this, you could add a pin here to allow you to pin it to your bag. You could completely attach this by hand using a sewing needle to the bow piece. You could even add this to a hairband. You just, maybe need to modify the size a little bit. This would certainly add a little bit more of more character to your bag. Again, just to show you, this is one I made earlier in multicolored fabric. So, knock yourself out. Again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.